Welcome to the Daily Commercial Forum. I'm your host, Sandy Moore. Every year, people face additional dangers around the holidays due to home burglaries, automobile thefts, and scams. We also have an increased risk to our safety around our home as well. Today, we will talk about how to stay safe during the holiday while at home and out shopping. Our guests from the City of Leesburg are Lieutenant George Whitaker with the Police Department and Chief Kevin Bowman with the Fire Department. We also have joining us Captain David Myers from the City of Tavares Police Department and Chief Carl Bishop with the City of Claremont Fire Department. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to start out by talking a little bit about personal safety when it comes to shopping and, with our vehicles and things like that. But I guess my first question really is to Lieutenant Whitaker and Captain Myers. Do you think that crime actually goes up in the time during the holidays, or is it just that we are way more aware of the crimes that happen during the holidays?
Well, speaking for our area, I think we just have different types of crime. I think we have more shopliftings, of course, during the holidays at our retail establishments. We have more car burglaries because people leaving gifts in their cars and things of that nature. Home burglaries become more targeted toward the holiday gifts and things of that nature. A lot of times when we have home burglaries during the summer months, it's more targeted toward the mobile home parks and where people are away and back up north. And so now those are occupied, so we don't have as many in the mobile home parks as we do during the summer months.
So what can we do as a citizen to make sure that we are aware and we're taking care of our safety?
Well, the biggest thing is like Captain Myers said, during the season it's a chance for opportunities, and the majority of criminals are looking for opportunities to take advantage of an innocent person. So with some of the biggest things is just simple as locking your car door. A lot of people are trusting up their cities and up their neighborhoods, and they'll just get out the car and leave it unlocked. And that's the opportunities that your criminals are looking for. We talk about packages, leaving them on the front seats and being visible. And again, that's an opportunity for somebody to come take what you just purchased or, worked hard to get. So those are, and the biggest thing is just being aware of your surroundings. Again, we're trusting, and we'll just come out, singing a little ditty, walking and, enjoying the sights.
It's Christmas.
It's
got
Christmas,
some Christmas
yes,
carols
right, happy, yes. So, but, we still have to be aware. We can't get into a comfort zone. We still have to be aware of what's going on around us and, and just be aware of everything.
So not making it easy for them.
Exactly.
I'm thinking, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about, if you have your gifts that you just purchased in the back of your car, if you cover them up, then they can't necessarily be window shopping. Oh, DVD player. This is a good one.
Lock them in the trunk.
Lock them in the trunk, even better. If you have a trunk, some of us don't.
And the other thing, the biggest thing is don't, once you get it, do lock it like Chief Bishop said, do lock it away, but don't wait till you get to your next destination and then put it in there, because again, a criminal might be watching you and see that you put it into the trunk or see where you put it at. And so you want to put that stuff away before you drive to that next store, your next destination. When
we see a lot of times the thefts from some of these cars and retail establishments, when you look at the video cameras from outside the retail establishment, you'll be able to see somebody that will be cruising in between the spaces up and down the aisles of the parking lot, just looking for exactly what Lieutenant Whitaker's saying, that opportunity.
Well, and I've heard of people locking things in their trunk, but then leaving their door unlocked, and someone opens the door and pops the trunk in the car.
And something people really don't think about very much is, when they come home and they leave their car door unlocked in their driveway, most of the time they have a garage door opener inside their car, and very often that gives them very easy access to the house. I mean, how many people actually lock that door that goes between the garage and the house? Not many, and if they do, it's very easy to slip one of those locks. It's not like a deadbolt.
I would say for prevention at the home, we've talked about cars, but prevention at the home, if you're going to be away for any amount of time, you can let your neighbors know that you're going to be gone and have them watch your house. And you can also call the police department if you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, like on vacation, or a way you can have them do a check. They'll drive by your house more often than they normally do if you let them know that you're going to be gone. So those are ways that you can prevent, burglaries.
Many police departments do have a house checklist. People call in and they'll tell us that from this date to this date we'll be gone. And an officer goes by pretty much every shift or every other shift, and as long as when they're patrolling that neighborhood and they're not busy. Most of the time our officers will get out and they will walk around the entire house, and we've actually found several burglaries that way by going and doing that proactive activity. And all it takes is calling the police department.
And planning ahead as well, you make sure your papers are stopped. Make sure you've gone to the post office and signed a paper that they hold your mail, so that as someone's driving around the neighborhoods, they don't see four newspapers there and things. And the little light timers that turn lights on and off. Very simple, very simple. Invite your neighbors to park their cars in your driveway while you're gone, so it doesn't look like the house is empty.
Mm-hmm.
I used to just be lazy about getting my newspaper, so it would pile up anyway.
Yeah. And one of the other things, and Captain Myers, when we was talking before the show started, and social media is important, that you don't put that stuff on Facebook or your Twitters and all that.
Going out of town.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
The
having
key is
fun.
under the mat at the front door.
Having fun in North Carolina mountains. Okay, you just told everybody in North Carolina. So, that's very important that you don't put your information out on the social media that you're going to be away from home. Mm-hmm. That's number one in my books. I know it is in his books also, that you don't advertise.
And will you share right before the show what you were talking about with the social media and the search?
Sure. I mean, there are websites out there now that you don't have to subscribe to Facebook or Twitter, and you can go to an open Facebook search site, and you can just plug in certain keywords like Christmas vacation and the town you're from, and it will bring up everybody's posts from that have been open to the public. So you might trust your friends, but do you trust everybody that's out there that's surfing the web that's able to do that?
Yeah, and I had never even heard of that before. And I had heard, you shouldn't probably, although it's so much fun to be able to post, I'm here, look, Dollywood or whatever. Now, what other things as far as protecting our homes from burglaries?
Again, same thing with cars. It's just making sure that your doors are locked at all times. And the other biggest thing, I know we all have Christmas trees and everybody decided, to show the Christmas tree, but you have the windows open for people to admire it, but also you can admire gifts that are underneath the trees, and that's something that a criminal might be looking like, oh, look at all the gifts that they have that I could help myself to. So, you don't really want to, you want to show off your tree, but you don't want to show off your presents. So be careful about leaving your windows open for extended periods of time where anybody can just walk up and look into it.
Well, and I know I've always heard after Christmas that you don't want to put your empty boxes out by the thing to let people know all of the goodies that you happen to have gotten for Christmas.
Lady Sandy, let me know that Sandy has a big 50-inch flat screen TV now that
Santa has been listening.
She read that, so so we have to be real careful.
Well, as we're talking about homes, and we're gonna hit definitely some more police issues and as far as safety is concerned, but as we've jumped into homes. Chief Bowman, can you start out? Just tell us some of the things that maybe we, especially in this time of year, should be looking out for as far as fire safety.
People love candles, and whether they're talking about Christmas candles or candles on the menorah during Hanukkah, candles are a big source of fire in homes. This time of year when we don't have to run our air conditioner, it's fantastic. We get to open the windows, and now we have the candles burning.
He just said we need to close our windows. So
well,
go ahead.
But people do. My windows are open right now, so.
But if out there,
watch out for that dog, though. And then the wind blows, which we enjoy the wind, but it's pushing the drapes across the flame of the candles, and it doesn't have to take too long. And now those flames are on the curtain, so we have problems with that. Also, it's time of year when people come over, we make these huge meals, but it's so easy to get distracted, and next thing you know, you have a kitchen fire. And fires in the kitchen are number one places where fires start in the home. And if you've got a house full of people, that's not such a good thing. That's a bad thing. So.
No, I'm pretty sure that's a party downer right there.
Yes, it is.
Chief
Yeah,
Bishop.
every year when my mom's cooking, she's 91 years old now, she's cooking for the families. About halfway through the meal, we start smelling something, and she's always left the rolls in the oven, so they're black, so.
You have one of those too. What else? What are some other things that we should be worried about?
Well, of course, the Christmas trees, if you buy a natural Christmas tree, you want to make sure that it's well watered, and there are flame retardants that you can spray on those trees that can reduce the risk of fire. You want to make sure that the wiring and the lights that you use, you've inspected them so they're not frayed or worn, and the plugs are good. And you want to check all of your ornaments. They should be fireproof. And I think when you put a Christmas tree in a house, that's something that's not normally there. You create space issues, and if you've got older people or young children in the house, you've usually moved furniture around, and the pathways that they're normally used to aren't there anymore. You've got gifts under the trees that usually spread out, so there's trip hazards. You run in extension cords where people can trip over, and so you want to check all those things, and especially space heaters and things like that. Make sure they're not near anything flammable, and don't go to sleep with space heaters on. There's a lot of things in your home like that, and as always, make sure your smoke detectors are working. So
This is the time when you're getting the batteries for all your other gifts. And
Well, we typically tell people to change their batteries and their smoke detectors when they change their clock. So hopefully they just did that about 6 weeks ago. But in
if they
case you
didn't-
haven't, this is a really good time.
This
If
is
you have
your
somebody who
reminder.
absolutely can't figure out what Christmas present to buy them an ABC fire extinguisher. They really should have one on every floor of your home. On every floor of your home. Sometimes you run into neighborhoods where you think they're competing with one another for lights and everything like that, and you look at their outlets and their extension cords plugged into extension cords, and that's so much a fire hazard too. Should not be any more than 3 strings of lights per extension cord.
now, does that include like the new LED lights? Is that the same?
Underwriters Laboratory has not changed their opinion on it, so
Okay.
that's how it stands still.
they pull less current, but you got to go by the manufacturer's recommendations. on that.
Recommendations
Yeah.
at 3 strands, so I need to adjust our lights. We haven't even done our lights yet. We need to, though.
Another thing might be don't burn. A lot of people, when they unwrap their gifts, they've got a fire going if it's cool, and they throw all the wrapping paper in the fireplace. So that a lot of times that can go up the chimney and float off still on fire and set the yard on fire or your house on fire. And it gets such a hot, big flame going in the fireplace, it could start a chimney fire as well. So that's not a good idea.
And wouldn't have even thought about that. No, what other things as far as, because now is the time, if you have a fireplace, which I don't, but I would love to have one, but this is when you want to be using it, snuggled up in front of there, listening to chestnuts roasting,
That's true, but you really should have it inspected by a licensed inspector if you're going to use it. And quite frankly, we don't use it very often here in Florida. So it might go a couple, 3 years without being used, and now you want to use it, and we're not sure if any cracks have developed. And if they have, that fire that's going up and out the chimney can actually end up in your attic, and if you burn the roof off your house, it'd be a bad Christmas. So have it inspected by a licensed chimney inspector and clean, because it might have a lot of soot and things in there that can cause chimney fires as well.
bird nest,
Birds get
Birds.
down there and build
Squirrels.
Yeah, all right.
all of those things. What about, I know the carbon monoxide detectors, those kind of things. I mean, are there other other types of, you said smoke detectors, other type of things that we need to be even more aware of? Is there anything new out there that we don't know about?
Well, there's carbon monoxide detectors, and then there's smoke detectors, and they are 2 different things. Now, in my house, I don't have a carbon monoxide detector because I don't have anything wood burning. I have a chimney, but I don't use it, and my hot water heater is electric, my stove is electric, so we're not really burning anything in the house. So a standard smoke detector will be fine, and they're a little cheaper than the carbon monoxide detectors. But having a fire extinguisher when you need it is really important. Again, most of the fires are going to start in the kitchen, but don't have the fire extinguisher right next to the stove, because if the stove is on fire, you might not be able to get to the extinguisher. Keep it on the other end of the kitchen.
And that's exactly where I would have probably put it, right? That's,
And make sure that the authorities are notified. And you might find this silly, but I was told a story recently where a turkey fryer caught fire. Well, 3 people videotaped it with their phone, and nobody called 911. Okay? We need get the professionals out there, please. We'd be more than happy to come out and attend to these things for you, but you're not going to be calling if you're videotaping it. It doesn't work very well.
And don't try to cook a frozen turkey. Channel 13 came over one time and tried to cook a frozen turkey at our fire department. And just before they were ready to drop it in, we caught them. And
Oh, at the.
yeah, that would have been a great news story. It would have, or not a not so great news story, because they would have been, it would virtually explode if you dropped a frozen turkey in hot grease. So
If you're frying a
if you're
frozen
frying
turkey,
a
got
turkey,
it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they were doing a story on cooking turkeys. And
Oh, well, that probably was not a good thing. Okay, well, as we're talking, what about when it comes to safety for us during the holiday seasons, dealing with our children? What should we be telling them? What are the things that maybe they should be more aware of? I have 2 boys. I try not to scare them all the time, and I don't want them to constantly be thinking everything's danger, but I also want them to be aware and know what to do if they were to get into a situation. What kind of things should we be talking to our kids about right now?
Well, I mean, during the holidays, stores get so crowded, and it's real easy for young children to sometimes just break away in those crowds. And they need to understand, if they get lost, they don't need to just go with anybody that comes up. They need to look for somebody that maybe is a store clerk, or if there's an officer assigned to the mall, or a security person assigned to the mall. They need to look for somebody like that to help them out, not just go with the first person they see.
And excuse me. And also, teach me, depending on the age of the child, especially your toddlers, try to teach them at least your cell phone number. That way, if they do have to ask, how we get a hold of mom, you go, oh, I think this is her number, and and they could give that, because that's very important. That's the easy, the most easiest way of tracking down a parent if they get separated is knowing the phone number or even an address. But the main thing is a phone number, a good phone number, that they would know, easy to teach, and that they could call a parent, if they get separated.
Yeah, and it's amazing how quick and early kids will remember those numbers. Even earlier than you think. I was teaching my oldest one my phone number, and my youngest one learned it like that. And I'm thinking, I didn't even think he was old enough to be able to learn it. So.
Well, younger kids now, I mean, they're so much more exposed to technology than they were when we were growing up. There weren't cell phones, and so, I have a toddler, and that's one of his favorite things to pick up is go find mommy or daddy's iPhone and pick it up and hold it to his ear. So they're exposed to it a lot more, so they take an interest in it and they remember those things.
Wouldn't mind talking a little bit about kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. At my age, my kids are away and gone, so when they were small, I'd have the little protectors in the electrical outlets, and I'd make sure my chemicals were stored safe and away, but they're gone now, so I don't think about that. But if we have family and friends over who do have toddlers, think about, putting those chemicals away and making sure that there aren't dangers at your home.
And something else that people want to think about is a lot of people in Florida have firearms in their home. And if they have grown kids, they don't necessarily think anymore about keeping the firearm locked up with a gun lock or in a gun safe. And they normally have it readily accessible. But if you have children over to the home, that's how a lot of firearms accidents happen, is you have visitors that will come over to the house and will find a loaded firearm. So they need to be aware of that also.
Well, I know this is the time, too, when everyone is trying to raise money for whatever charity that they may have. What can we do to protect ourselves from getting scammed during the holidays? Having someone, with a really good cause come up and take us for...
Let me see. Well, you have the attorney generals out there, but the Department of Agriculture, they have an actual site where you could go to, the Florida Department of Agriculture. They have an actual site where you could go to and you could put these charities' names into those into the search engine, and it'll tell you if they are a legitimate organization or not. Or you could call, I think it's 1-800-HELP Florida. And you could call them and say, hey, is this a legitimate organization? And they could verify it for you. And because they do, there are the scammers that are out there, even with the Hurricane Sandy. A lot of companies came about overnight. Talking about they kept collecting money to to help the victims, and they wasn't. They was helping themselves. To the to our kindness as a society. They was trying to take advantage of that. But what Florida Department of Agriculture, they do have a site that you could go to and check on these organizations and verify that they are legitimate. And if you do have a complaint against them, you can file a complaint also if you don't think they're, something just ain't
something
right.
seems wrong. Yeah, I know this is the time of year when you don't want to be the Scrooge, and you're feeling happy, and and it just makes you want to be able to give, but knowing who to give to and not necessarily, being taken is important too.
Yep. And we've talked about stores and stuff like that. One thing that kind of is important too is, especially with females, a lot of times you be in the shopping and you see them have their purse sitting there in that shopping cart, and sometimes it's open and sometimes it's closed. But that is the biggest target there for shoppers, especially during the holidays. A lot of times what you'll see is what we call distractor techniques. They work in teams where this is a shopper. I come, hey, could you show me this? And while he looking at this, my partner is easing up and taking a purse or trying to take whatever is in the basket or some personal use. So those are things that we really see a lot of too. It's called distractor techniques, and that where they try to take you work as a team, and they will try to take your purse while you're not looking.
And it can be very innocent looking. I've heard of that, where it's a very innocent, even somebody with a kid, talking to you, and so being aware, I guess, is the biggest thing.
Yeah, hanging on, watching that purse at all times. Like I say, again.
They'd be very disappointed if they got my purse.
Yeah.
But along those lines, people also have to be aware when they're going to ATM machines. They don't need to go to an ATM machine alone. They don't need to be going to ATM machines at night to pull money out. People who target those areas. There was an Orlando police officer that was killed off duty at an ATM machine removing money last year. So you have to be very, very aware of that. And people go out, and this is the time for spending. They run out of money. Oh, I'm going to go get a little bit of extra cash, and they don't necessarily think about the things that they normally would.
Well, and I think that that's the whole thing. You're so easily distracted right now with just the holidays itself, and of course nowadays with cell phones and things like that, it's very easy to be looking at your cell phone, checking this, and not really paying attention to what's going on around you. So maybe just continually being aware. Very paranoid. I don't want to be paranoid all the time, though.
And when you talk about cell phones, I know some of the kids do have them. At toddler age and middle school. But the one thing that we do need to remember when we was talking about kids getting separated from the parents, that a lot of these newer phones have the GPS tracking. So if you're going to be out, you might want to make sure that GPS is on. And if we do have what we call a missing child, the law enforcement have the capability of calling the phone carriers and asking, hey, could you tell us where his phone is at right now, or the phone number, and we could locate that just using the phone, what we call pinging the phone, and that'll tell us about the general area where that person would be at.
And for instance, if a child calls in on 911 on a cell phone, and it's got a GPS on it, it's what's called Phase 2 compliant, it will track that cell phone on a map within the communication center. I mean, I've watched in the communication center where we could see basically where the person was driving in between the lanes of a parking lot. It's that accurate.
Wow.
And it's really helpful too, because you may have somebody coming from another city, come up from up north to visit family, and all of a sudden they've come across a car wreck. They call 911. I'm going to report a car wreck. Well, where are you at? I don't even know what city I'm in right now. Well, we can tell right there by looking where your phone's calling from, and you dispatch the police, fire, and EMS units right there.
So it can be extremely helpful.
Very much so.
What else? Are there any other things that we're missing?
I can't go away without saying it's a time of year when we like to have some holiday cheer. The people need to drink responsibly. It's to be a terrible Christmas to lose a family member because somebody drank too much and got behind the wheel. So if you're hosting the party, don't let people get drunk and leave. And if you're out with folks, remind them they need to be very responsible with their drinking because, again, people are distracted and running around shopping and they may step out in front of you. If you've had a couple of drinks, might make the difference.
And one of the other things is why you a lot of times say we have given present electronics, all that. Why it's brand new and you haven't set it up yet, like TVs, stereos, so forth. This is the time to write the serial numbers down, because believe me, they didn't stop making just one Toshiba television. And when we have burglaries and we ask, do you have the serial numbers? All they can tell us, oh, it's a Toshiba television. Well, it's more than just one out there. So, before you get it set up, right, take the time to take a serial number, even photograph it. That way you have a log of what you have. So if it does get taken, we have a computer system where we could put those serial numbers, depending on the value, into our system. And if an officer comes across it and run that serial number, so it'll let us know, hey, it was stolen in Leesburg. And we take it from there.
Same thing if it winds up in a pawn shop. Basically, the only way that you're going to be able to identify that item in a pawn shop is going to be by the serial number. And when it gets entered into, we have a pawn shop database that our detectives check on a regular basis. They come upon that serial number. Really, serial number is about the only way you wind up recovering stolen electronics and things of that nature.
Yeah, I had a video camera stolen, and I happened to actually have kept the box, which had it on there, and I got my video camera back from a pawn shop. I had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And the chief had mentioned about alcohol and about drinking and driving. This is also the time of year that you have a lot of family and friends that wind up coming over to the house, and people will have a little bit too much alcohol. You need to make sure that you keep your family and friends under control. We don't want to have our officers as uninvited guests to your party.
Well, and I know that there is some free taxi services out there right now during this time. I want to say AAA, maybe we did a show not too long ago about it, but where you actually, if you've consumed, you have someone that's overconsumed, so maybe looking up that information ahead of time so that you can call even, so it's not a matter of, well, that we don't have the money. Hopefully somebody's there that maybe can drive them, but even checking that out. Well, we are running out of time, but thank you so much for all of the tips, and I know that I am already thinking of all the things that I haven't done already or need to do, but mainly just being aware. But it's a great time of year, but unfortunately there's people out there that during this time of year want to take advantage of that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.